Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terebinth Leadership. Thanks and welcome to the program. Today, we're going to be talking about the myth that America is a capitalist society. Capitalism was dead decades ago. We have a new system now, and it's what I keep saying, it's globalism, crony capitalism, very much in terms of that same type of corruption that we know that now in America, it's no longer do you work hard, you're smart, take risk, and if you're rich, you're rich, and if you're not, then you lack one of those elements. Corporations have fused with government, and the problem is I'm not necessarily all against when the corporations and the governments fuse, not 100%, but the problem is what's the ideology? It's globalism. So we have these corporations in America that are globalist companies, multinational companies, and they don't have loyalty to America anymore, at least not to the American citizens. So we're going to talk about that, and everything points into the same direction. That is, this is one of the reasons America is going to collapse. And we know this, that this system we have, that we continue to repeat. And I'm going to show you a couple slides on X where the typical MAGA influencers like to make fun of socialism, and they keep saying, here's my very point. So let's let the bottom line up front very quickly. One, we don't have capitalism anymore in America, number one. Number two, I'm not a big believer in socialism. I am a believer in what's called national socialism, or you call it fascism, or some people call it nationalism. But you'll see that the MAGA influence constantly say that socialism is bad. Well, they're not talking about national socialism. And you remember when Trump went to China, the MAGA loves China. At the end of the day, really, the only thing that our government likes, is money. Meaning, let's take a country like North Korea. You don't think that if some way, shape, or form, the American corporations could make money out of North Korea? President Trump would be in North Korea shaking hands with North Korea saying, I think the system is not as bad as we think. I think we could work to get its money. We are a globalist corporation in America. Trump is the CEO and your employees. It's all about the money. We don't have a country anymore. I think this concept, to many people find it surprising, or they don't understand this. We don't have a country. We have a globalist corporation. So our really only ideology is money. So wherever there's money, even a place like China, which should be considered in many ways our enemy, but guess what? To the corporations, to our corrupt government, where there's money, there's friendship, and that's all it is. But let me point to a couple of reasons where we look at the MAGA, where they keep saying it's socialism bad. But then again, don't fool yourself. We're going to do some clips too of the Democrats. Their version of socialism is not mine. Why? Because my version is something called National Socialism. And in National Socialism, this thing called diversity, multiculturalism, multiracialism doesn't work. But either way, you're seeing it from both sides of the aisle. And I say this is why our number one enemy aren't liberal people. Because whether you're on the right side of the aisle or the left, you're both getting screwed over by the system. And this new enemy, and I said this many times, is sort of the 1%. These ultra rich globalist people, many times they could even be MAGA or non-MAGA, but where there's absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's too much money. It's not capitalism anymore. Anyway, let's go on to some things and you'll see it, but this system is just not going to work anymore. So anyway, this is like the typical, these are MAGA influencers, and he's like, if socialism, so they like to harp on socialism, and we get this, and I get it. If we're talking socialism, which is a watered down version of communism, I get this. But, socialism is bad. So, okay, well, let's see what system. So then we're going to go to the next one here. And if you notice my comment on here, we like to say this. So let's look at this. Hopefully everyone can see this. Okay, good. Everyone can see this. So what does this portray? This portrays some liberal dude. I guess he's got a communist t-shirt on. So I guess he's China. And he says, hey, the rich don't pay. And then you got this girl. I don't know why. I don't know what type of message you're trying to do. Like she's Chinese. And she's saying like the liberal white guy who's this communist, but the China. I don't get this at all. But at the end of the day, look what I wrote here about taxes. If the rich really think they're paying more in taxes, and the rich really are capitalists, then let's just end taxes. Let's end it for everyone then. I want to make this point because you hear this point. So it's just weird what they did. I don't know at this point. You got this liberal guy, communism. He's retarded. I get that. And then you got this Chinese woman. She's dressed. Well, if she's Chinese, then again, if you said the word Nazi now, not in a negative sense, but who do I think are today's National Socialists? The Chinese. It's fascism. under Deng Xiaoping it changed. But anyway, you get my point. I don't know this whole deal with this Chinese girl defending it, because that's not going to be, that wouldn't happen in China. But let the major point know that if these MAGA or capitalists, if they complain that the rich are just paying too much in taxes, well, then let's just abolish taxes. Do it. Because I'm telling you, let's push it. Because if they're capitalists, they should tell me if they think that the rich are having an undue burden on taxes, paying more than the common person, and they're capitalists, well, they love to save money, then let's just end taxes altogether. Let's see where that goes. Wouldn't do it. Anyway, let's keep going on this stuff. Then we come here. This one's interesting because this happened to me too. So anyway, I don't know if you guys know this guy. It's not like let me make sure so everyone can see it. I don't know him too well. This is a, what's his name? This is Max Blumenthal, something like that. I don't know him that well, but anyway, he's an American citizen. His devices were seized and everything coming back. Now, again, he's an American citizen. What did I write right here? I'm telling you, people think this is no big deal. Watch out. If you want to live in a world where our government, and they're doing it already, where our government, hopefully everyone could read that. Let me just make a quick comment on this. If you want to live in a society where the American government will secretly, that's the key word, secretly put US citizens on watch lists, which has happened to me, then welcome to the East Germany. Right now I'm in email contacts again with DHS. There's no contact with the FBI. They won't even talk with me. Everything's classified then. But the DHS, there's at least something I have in paper under the Freedom of Information Act request, and that was when I traveled to and from America in the Chicago International Airport, I was detained by Customs and Border Patrol. So I was detained, I was searched, I was interrogated. My electronic devices were sent in the back room, manipulated. So they can't hide that. Me being under surveillance by the FBI in America, the FBI is not going to say anything. So it's my word against, well, there's zero word. It's a cover up. The FBI physically assaulting me, you get it. That part, there's no doubt. It's basically my say. But under the Chicago airport, that's documented. So now, and this goes back to the point, if you're okay for the US government to secretly put you on watch list, now I'm having dialogue again with the DHS, and I'm like, am I still on a watch list? They're not going to admit it because that was the first one. They're like, if this is under a national security clause, we under DHS are not obligated by law to tell you the reason you were detained, because that was the big reason. Why was I detained? Why was I searched? Why were my electronic equipment taken from me? Just like this guy, Max Blumenthal. So they said they can't tell me because if it's national security. So I wrote him again. I said, hey, you don't have to tell me. I know I'm on a watch list, but am I still on a watch list? Here's the point. We're going back and forth. We've had about 10 emails. Before I even get to the point, I'm asking them, come on, they're hiding. Every single email, there's not one name on it. It's the DHS Department of, it's like your, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're doing a compliance request, rebuttals. And I said, hey, can I get your name? I don't know who I'm talking to. It just says DHS. And it's been over and over. And they say, sorry, we cannot give out our name. What are you, a secret agent? You're DHS. You work for the government. You work for the American people. We pay our taxes. And I said, then fine. Put your manager on here. Put a public affairs officer on here. Give me a fucking name. I mean, this is our government here. You're telling me, you as a US citizen, if you're making a complaint or whistleblower and you're having a grievance with the US government, they are too afraid. They're cowards. I'm telling you, the FBI, I know these guys working in the government. High testosterone men don't make a career in the government. It's rare. You think I'm wrong? Look at FBI Director Kash Patel. Does that guy look like an animal of an alpha male? I mean, the guy looked like he couldn't get through a bar with three other guys pacing him behind. It's just not going to happen. So the point being is 10 emails with the DHS, they still won't put a name on it. And I said, then elevate it to your manager. Get your public affairs officer. But this is what I'm telling you. This is our government. And of course, if you were a foreign national, it'd be different. You're a US citizen and you're communicating with the US government, doing some type of compliance, allegation, rebuttal, complaint, grievance. And they won't even put a certain name on it. This is how much corruption we have in our government. I've said before, I want to move on, but I cannot tell you how corrupt our government is. And to the point is, remember, you as a private citizen, if you choose the right to remain silent, that's not an admission of guilt. That's your constitutional right to remain silent, even though I'm telling you from the FBI, they're going to assume you're guilty. But when the US government, which they have a duty to investigate government corruption, you pay your taxes, they are public officials. When they are silent, which in my case, they're silent, the FBI is silent, the politician, that's called a cover-up. I can't explain it more, it's a cover-up. But like I said, we're going to keep going through this. I don't think anything's really going to change until economic disaster hits America, which it will. Because I just think we're a corporation. Nothing really, it doesn't really motivate people to say you need to do the right thing. We are a corporation in America. All you have to do is follow the money. And when this money starts getting very tight in America to the point of you're going to see an economic depression, that's when people wake up. It's economics insecurity. Anyway, let's go back to him. But anyway, what do I think about this guy, Max Bloom? I don't know. But the point being is there should be open kimono. If you're going to search a U.S. citizen, then maybe have some evidence of criminal activity. So Max went to Tehran. I get it. I want to put this down. We had the same case in the FBI, and I brought this to Senator Chuck Grassley. We had American citizens going to North Korea. There's nothing illegal going to North Korea. It's weird. I get it. I'm not going to go. Going to Iran, I'm not interested. I'm not going to Iran. But is it illegal to go to Iran? And you might say, yeah, but David, we're at war now and he's colluding with the enemy. Okay, that's fine. But if you keep going down that path, I'm telling you, we're going to turn into the East Stasi. We're going to turn East Germany, and the Stasi is going to have legitimate gripes to investigate everyone. Meaning if you're going to make it a legitimate excuse saying, well, I could see why the FBI wants to investigate him. He did go to Iran, and it's very suspicious. You've just opened the Pandora's box, people, because everything can be determined as suspicious. I would like to know what evidence do they have of him doing criminal activity. That would be me. Like I said, I don't think any of these videos are going to make a difference on a whole. But what I'm telling you, these videos are going to age like fine wine. And when America goes to collapse, you're going to see it. It's going to get worse and worse. Then some people are going to remember this. But I'm telling you, with this guy, Max Blumenthal, wrong answer. You don't do this. Let's go to the next one here. This is interesting. This strokes a lot of people up. Let me see this. So if you remember, this is interesting here. This is, hopefully everyone knows, Grant. There are but two parties, traitors and patriots. And what did I say? This kind of provoked some people. We already had a civil war. West Pointers were killing other West Pointers. And I say many times, this is where you know, if you think military veterans, which are 1% of the population, are one big brotherhood, you're wrong. We're divided. You could say many times we're divided as a nation. Why? Because forced diversity into America, well, that diversity went to the military, went to the FBI, went to the CIA, went to West Point. The same diversity. If you assume that the military is one big brotherhood and we're going to stick together, you are far from logic. Won't happen. We already had one civil war. Will another one happen? Oh, I'm not doubting that at all. Anyway, let's go to the next one here. This is an interesting one to always remember. Let me bring this up. Maybe hopefully everyone can see it. 1 second. All right, just wanted to do that a little bit, but never forget, this is what I'm saying, hopefully everyone can see that. This is, let me just talk a little bit about violence. Now, there's a difference between predicting violence and promoting. I left America. I was not, anyone thinks I left America, never had any problems with America, never had a problem with the FBI. I left, I sent my letter to Senator Chuck Grassley. It's his job, your taxpayer, to him fix it. I'm not going to be no hero. I just left. So I don't have any issues per se. Now I do, where they cannot leave me alone. But what I'm trying to say is you hear a lot of these influencers or politicians, and they say the same thing about violence. I'm against violence. Well, that sounds like the most retarded thing there is. We live in a world of violence. I don't know. Are you a meat eater? I eat meat. In fact, I grew up hunting. Killing an animal is a form of violence. Death penalty is a form of violence. Some people are against abortion. I get it. Abortion's violence. Going to war is violence. being a policeman. I mean, we have violence everywhere. The key is, even the key if you're going to be a leader is not whether violence is illegal or legal. Why? Every war is illegal. Every war is illegal. If you don't think it's illegal, the other side. Our war with Iran, it's illegal from Iran's side. It could actually even be illegal from our side in terms of presidential powers. You want to focus on morality. The problem with morality, it's very loose. We don't really have a moral system. We're not a Christian country anymore. So when people ask me, David, what do you think about violence? Depends. Depends if it's morally justified. Well, what is morally justified? Okay, that could take it down a path. But you hear these people, I'm against violence. What do I think is going to happen in America? Now, I would be in favor of a peaceful separation where the states separate, and that's a peaceful solution. I don't think it's going to happen. So I say again, there's a difference between promoting violence and predicting. Do I predict violence is going to happen in America? Absolutely. 100%, you're going to see it. We're a violent nation. Our nation was formed through violence. We solve our problems through violence. What do you think we're doing in Iran? How many of these MAGA people think it's a great idea to bomb the shit out of Iran? Probably a lot of them. That's fine. Live by the sword, die by the sword. But I'm not going to be one of these people like, I'm against all forms of violence. I don't know where that logic came from. Who are you against all forms of violence? The only person that could be against all forms of violence, you have to be like some Buddhist monk who doesn't even like walking on the streets where they're worried about squishing an ant, which is a form of life and a form of violence. I'm against all forms of violence. I never heard that. What do I think about violence? Well, I just said, if it's morally unjustified, think about it. What if some guy, a pedophilia, raped your younger daughter and you went out and blew out his brains? I think a lot of people would say, good for you. It depends, don't you think? So, but what I'd say is if you're going to be a leadership, think less about legality, but that's the danger. Leadership is a very dangerous profession, and think more about morality. What's your morality? Well, you better have a moral code if you're a leader. Most people don't. That's why most people don't understand leadership. There is no moral code in America. We are a corporation. It's all about money. So you have a legal code. The rich break the code because they have money. Let's face it, the legal system, if you have money for good lawyers, you'll beat the system. So we really don't have a moral code, because if we do have a moral code, where is it? Used to be probably Christianity. We are not a Christian nation anymore. I don't know what moral code we have. But anyway, I wanted to set that aside with violence. What do I think? Well, if you're against violence, America would never have been formed. What would George Washington do if he was against violence? Well, he probably wouldn't have been a general and been in the military. What's the military? The profession of arms. You know, the violence of action. I mean, that's what we do. So anyway, just want to put that in there. Let's go to the next one here. This is pretty interesting. Let me see if everyone can see this. I just find this weird. So this is the Israeli flag. Yeah, so what did I say? You know, everyone could see that. Everyone gets the point. This is all in the politics, but is that not retarded? And I'd say the same thing if that was a Canadian flag or British flag, meaning our good allies, you could say. But I'm telling you, I actually don't have a problem with Israel. People always try to put me like, he's working for Israel, he's not against them. No, but then other people, trust me, call me a neo-Nazi because I think our view of Adolf Hitler is skewed. I have a different view of World War II and Adolf Hitler. So then people call me a neo-Nazi. I get it. We go back and forth. But the point being is the government of Israel, their priority is to take care of the Israelis. You know, I say back with the USS Liberty, who betrayed us? Did Israel betray us, or maybe our own government? So our U.S. politicians, they have a loyalty to U.S. citizens. Why are they working for Israel? I'd probably say two things. I've said this before. One, there's this Christian Zionism. I don't quite get. I'm not an expert on Christianity, nor am I expert on Judaism. These are ideology. I don't know. You're gonna have to deal with them. I don't get these people, but that's why you have to study more of this ideology, like I study China. The second, though, I think most of them, it's the money, because I've seen it before with China. All these corporate, look at Donald Trump. If you think his MAGA ideology and socialism is wrong, MAGA went to Beijing and they kissed ass. You could call China communism. I call it fascism. But either way, those two political ideologies are not kosher for America. So why do we go there to kiss ass to China? Because the money. That's what I think. I think a lot of people are working for Israel. I think it's the money. Do you blame Israel? I don't know. I don't blame Israel start. I would probably say you're an American citizen. You elected those American politicians to serve you. I would say they're the traitors. I've said many times, Patriots betrayed. Who betrayed America? The American globalist government and the American globalist corporations. I'd start on there versus pointing the finger at it's China, it's Russia, it's Israel. I'm not gonna say you're wrong with Israel, But that's not where the blame should be. The blame should be with the American corporations, the American government, Americans who sold you out for Israel. That's what I'd say. I'd say those are the traitors. But like I said, I don't think this problem is going to get solved until violence. I think violence is going to come anyway. So let's go to one more. In fact, what do I keep saying? I've said this many times. What is at the crux of all this? The white man. It's up to you, white man, whether you're gonna fix this problem or not. This is a good video. This shows you how remarkable European white men are, European culture, and we're losing it. And who do I blame? Yes, I've said many times, I'm not a fan of white women's attitude, but I still put the blame on white men. This is what our founding fathers created in everything. This is what we're losing. Let's take a look at this.
The weakling from resignation. Let us look each other in the face. We are Hyperboreans. Our fate? It was the fullness, the tension, the storing up of powers. We thirsted for the lightning and great deeds. We kept as far as possible from the happiness of the weakling, from resignation. Let us look each other in the face.
And then guess what? The rise and fall of the West, as you see, it's up to the European white man. It's up to the European white man. All right, let's go one last. This is what I keep saying too. This is the whole violence thing, but you take it for what you want. But what do I think about voting? Waste of time. Do it. In fact, like I said, I've said many times, by me not paying my U.S. taxes, it's a little something. I agree. I'm just only one person. But think about it. If our government knows that you, and I'm assuming my audience is mostly white American men, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not tracking these demographics. But if you, as a white American man, no matter what you say or do, if you continue to do two things, I'm going to pay my taxes, and I believe that voting is going to fix the problem, then you're an official cop. Nothing's going to change. Think about it. I'm the government. Are they still going to pay their taxes? Yes. Are they still going to vote, meaning they believe voting is going to work? They're not going to do any violence. They're not going to do it. Yes. Okay, then I won. And you're going to get the same McDonald's meal every time. McDonald's meal A, McDonald's meal B, and it's going to flip. Like I said, now today we're going to be showing some videos of Democrats. Don't even fool yourself. I'm not a vote. I don't believe in any of these Democrats are going to solve it. I don't even think any of these MAGA people are going to solve it. I think Trump is going to wither out and violence is going to solve it. But where the Democrats are right, because what did I say? What's the part of this video? We're not capitalists anymore. And what they've said is, and it's true, they said maybe the enemy, maybe they didn't articulate it as direct as I'm saying it, but I believe they did. And I've said this. The number one enemy, if you are far right or whatever right, I'm telling you, your number one enemy, just like I said, your number one enemy is not China right. Your number one enemy are not these liberal people. They're not homo dudes. They're not transsexuals. They're not pink-haired women. Now, we're not the same, and we ought to be separate. That's what I'm saying. This union's going to break, but they're not your number one enemy. Just the same thing. If you're a bunch of liberal yo-yos and you think the neo-Nazi white men are your enemy, you're a fucking moron. A lot of these white men are getting fucked in the ass with a big rubber dick. Their life is not doing very well. Who's the common enemy? It's becoming into the top 1%. Yes, even this guy, Elon Musk, that we have to depend on Elon Musk for X to give us free speech. I say again, if you're an American and you believe the First Amendment is real and alive, and you have to depend on a private trillionaire businessman to give you free speech, that right there, our system's going down. So I keep saying it. Maybe, which is true, the number one enemy is these top 1%. And they want you to believe that this system, if you're not doing very well, you're just lazy. You're dumb. You're not a risk taker, because this is capitalism. This is not capitalism anymore. I'm telling you. Even in my situation, who would have thought that I got legal victory in China and in America? Everyone knows in America that if you have enough money, that you could sway the political justice system. So anyway, if you don't believe me, let's see where. But if you have a system that continues to allow the top 1% to accumulate more and more percentage of the wealth, that system, however you want to call that system, you can call it communism, you can call it capitalism, you could call it Pluto and Jupiter. It doesn't matter. That system is bound for collapse. It's bound for collapse. A revolution's coming. Why? Because you have to have a system where there's a sense of fairness. There has to be justice, fairness, equality, at least in that law that says, hey, you can succeed just as I can. We have the same, you could say the same rules per se. These rules are bent. The rules are bent for the rich, and you're going to have to follow the rules. We know it. It's so obvious right now. So anyway, I don't want to get confused. The Democrats talk about that. And so it's not that I'm pro-Democrat, but what I keep saying is, you keep hearing we don't want to unite. We can. I'm not saying we're going to be long-term compatriots, meaning the liberals and the far right people. We're probably going to have to split. But the short-term enemy is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. This top 1%, these globalists, whether it be the corporations or these governments, they do not have the best interests of the common American man. Not at all. Anyway, let's go into some things here. Let's first look at Donald Trump. And like I said, all I could say with Donald Trump, you could tell he's a natural salesman. I look at him more as a CEO rather than a president. He's going to make sure his oligarchs make a lot of money. Is it going to be trickle-down economics for the common American man? Don't think so at all. Don't think so at all. But anyway, this is Donald Trump. And I'm telling you, what do I keep saying in this video? We don't have capitalism anymore. Don't believe these MAGA people that say, yeah, socialism is evil, fascism is evil, or communism is evil. The best system is capitalism. We don't have capitalism anymore, people. It's not capitalism.
America affordable again, but the word of inflation, and I will make America affordable again. But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up. Affordability is a hoax that was started by Democrats.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
They use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax. Just about everything is a big yawn. The word that they use is a hoax.
So in the military, we have something called lead by example. And something is especially when you're a field commander, these would be lieutenants and captains and even majors, even lieutenant colonels. They want you, when you have troops in the field, troops in combat, you need to get down in the trenches, for lack of a better word, to see how the troops are. How are they sleeping? How are they eating? How is their day-to-day life is? How's the morale? Because you don't want to be that general back at the Pentagon and you don't have a pulse of the troops. The problem is a guy like Donald Trump then says that this guy's a billionaire. He's eating steak and lobster along with his rich kids who never served in the military. They're not going to suffer from economic hardship. And they seem to be more and more. This is what happens. It happens to anyone, even you. I know you're like, it wouldn't never happen to me, David. I'm American. Yeah, it's hard. All of a sudden you won the lotto and you're worth $60 million or $1 billion. We want to include me. You naturally will start getting detached. Even me, that I've lived overseas so much, I've become detached from America. That's what I'm saying. If I'm never able to go back to America the rest of my life, this is not an insult. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm fine though. It's not a big deal to me. You get accustomed to new lifestyles. But I'm telling you, back to this part, people say these evil billionaires. I'm not going to argue with that, but I'm trying to put you in their shoes. Once you become so rich, and the system should not have allowed that to happen, but once you become so rich, you become detached. So when you hear these conspiracy theories, the elite rich, they don't care about us. They don't care if we die. I believe it. They're just so detached. They don't have an understanding of what life is like living in hardship. And so I look at Donald Trump. He's like, I'm not so worried about finance. Yeah, easy for you to say. You're a rich billionaire. It's going to get worse and worse. This next clip I want you to look at. This is Melania Trump with her shitcoin. When Donald Trump launched his shitcoin, I'm telling you, I've said many times, I still can't think of a better president than Donald Trump. Well, my liking of him's dropping. But I think he might go down as the most corrupt president in the history of America in terms of insider trading, in terms of nepotism, in terms of the financial fraud that's happening with using the White House as basically a business. In terms of that type of corruption, I think he'll go down in history as number one. So when he launched his shitcoin, it was embarrassing. It was immoral. But you could say it comes a little with the territory. I'm not excusing him, but when Melania Trump, and I'm not a fan of Melania Trump, she's an escort. She married Trump for his money. I'm not into this. She's this beautiful, conservative, traditional. She's not. She moved to America. She's an escort, which is a nice name for a prostitute. Don't think so? Yeah, if Donald Trump was making $100,000 a year, I don't think she would have married him, okay? Billionaire. Anyway, when she launched her shitcoin, it was so when the first lady should never get into that, especially if you believe in conservatives and traditional. A first lady should be submissive. She should be quiet. She should be behind the scenes. And first and foremost, she should support her husband as the president, because we want that as taxpayers. We want the president to get support from his family so he could do a better job. But when she's like, no, I want my shitcoin too. And I don't care what people say, well, she never knew about it, or it wasn't her idea. Well, it came out with her name on it. I guarantee she did the blessing. But when she does it, it's becoming so dishonorable, because she's the first lady. You have a lot of these young girls who looked up to her as a role model. They probably spent, I'm thinking about a young girl who's 18 years old who spent her little money, like $1,000, to invest in Melania's shitcoin, and she lose. The first lady, no, it is absolutely abhorrent for the first lady to get into that bullshit. It's bad enough that Trump did it. Anyway, here we go.
In Melania's crypto, if you invested $10,000 in Melania's cryptocurrency coin last year, today you would only have $9. Yes, the Melania coin is down about 99.9% from when it launched, and many people lost a lot of money investing in these cryptocurrencies. This is a perfect example of why you should never go all in on any cryptocurrency or any investment. Always diversify and do your own research before you invest in anything.
I got it. I mean, he's talking about crypto. I get that. That's a different conversation. It's definitely risky. I'm more focused on Melania, that sense of leadership. She's our first lady. She's a public official. Your tax money is also paying for her salary, her family. For her to launch a shitcoin, which is basically a fucking scam, a rug pull, especially on young girls who looked up to her. It's just, I can't think of the word. It's just so sleazy. It's so dishonorable. It was bad enough for Donald Trump to do it. The first lady, this is why men, we get rough and dirty, but our morality comes at stake. Why? You do that. So a woman, she's not part of leadership, but she maintains her innocence like a virgin. That's why women and children are always protected. So for her to say, listen, I am, Donald, she talked to Donald, I am not getting in on this shitcoin thing. I am a lady. Forget first lady matters because she's a public official, but I'm a lady and my innocence, I don't do business. They're rich as fuck, these Trumps already. But anyway, I'm not going to get into it. If you don't understand the concept of why it was even worse that Melania Trump launched her shitcoin, even worse than Trump, who is, like it or not, he's a bit of a sleazy businessman. I know that. It comes with the territory. But when the first lady does it, it's a whole new fucking level. It's the same thing. A guy could kind of sleep around with girls. When a woman sleeps around with men, it's a different standard, people. It's a different standard. Anyway, let's go to this one right here. And this is what I want to do is I want to look at the big picture in terms of capitalism and cronyism right here. Just a big picture on where it's going.
I'm now broke. Meet the Today on Forbes, quote, I'm now broke. Meet the investors who lost billions buying Trump stocks and crypto. Vadim Fistakan started working at 17 years old and built the kind of savings that usually takes years of overtime, delayed purchases, and adult restraint. More than $100,000 by the time he hit his late 20s. In 2021, the Washington State truck driver eyed a house near family in Florida with a pool and a waterway that led to a river and then the ocean. He says, quote, we were thinking about pulling the trigger. Then I saw this whole Trump thing going on. This Trump thing was the Trump Media and Technology Group, the company behind Truth Social. In October 2021, the president unveiled the business, promising a censorship-free platform and giving supporters a chance to invest via Special Purpose Acquisition Company, or SPAC. shares of the SPAC jumped 1,650% in 2 days, then fell about 30% by the start of the third. To Fistacan, that looked less like a warning than a discount. The 3-time Trump voter says, quote, I'm getting in. He added to his bet until it hit $205,000. That investment is now worth $30,000. Fistacan logged onto Truth Social last fall to voice his frustrations. He says, quote, I'm like, hey, this is a scam. And a lot of people were like, no, you're just a Trump hater. I'm like, no, I was on board since day one. I'm now broke. He's not alone. Catherine Childs, the SPAC's former chief financial officer, now uses her Truth Social account to promote a song accusing the president of selling out his supporters, called, quote, Donald Trump is a B-word. Chad Nedohin, a worship leader who once moonlighted as the unofficial captain of Trump Media's retail shareholders, now describes the company as a vehicle for enriching the president and his inner circle. He says, quote, we're just poor cattle to them. He doesn't care about anyone. Throughout the president's life, his most remarkable creations, whether casinos in Atlantic City, public offerings on the New York Stock Exchange, or political movements across America, all relied on one thing: believers. In 2021, Trump left the White House with an abundance of them and quickly got to work monetizing. To do so, he followed a process with 3 distinct stages. First, the invention. Come up with a business concept, invest almost nothing, take a big chunk of equity. Second, the sale. Stir up a frenzy among the faithful, cash out what you can. Third, the mess. Watch the assets collapse, salvage the scraps. From 2021 to 2025, 5 Trump family ventures reached public investors: Trump Media, World Liberty Financial, Trump's meme coin, Melania Trump's meme coin, and American Bitcoin. Now, they are all hitting the messy stage. Trump Media shares are down 89% from their peak. World Liberty tokens have fallen 82%. The president's meme coin is off 98%. Melania's version has dropped 99%. Shares of American Bitcoin are down 95%. The Trumps, after cashing out $1.9 billion, are still up $3.1 billion overall, according to Forbes calculations. Their supporters are down an estimated $7 billion. The human cost of all this lies in accounts like Fistacan's. He didn't just buy a stock. He bought a story that Trump views his supporters as partners rather than tools. Fistacan says, quote, pretty much my whole life savings was in this one stock. This is the greatest theft, con job, he has ever done. Nick Pinto was sitting inside Champions, the restaurant at Trump's Miami Golf Resort, in January 2025, when a Robinhood notification lit up his phone. Trump had launched a meme coin. The 26-year-old's due diligence consisted of Googling around and hopping on X. He initially invested $7,000. Pinto was part of a frenzy that delivered the first family an extraordinary windfall as Trump returned to the White House. The roots of it lay in World Liberty Financial, the crypto project the president had launched the previous September. Billionaire Justin Sun, facing allegations from the Securities and Exchange Commission, invested $45 million in its token after Trump won the election, then put another $100 million into the president's meme coin. Melania Trump added a coin of her own. The 3 tokens traded furiously as Trump ascended to the throne, throwing off hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. Then the president added a perk: dinner at his Virginia club for the top 220 meme coin investors. Pinto upped his bet to $480,000, allocating about 60% of his entire investment portfolio to the meme coin. That was enough to get him into the dinner. The meme coin slid downward after the event and never really recovered, losing 2/3 of its value by the end of the year. It was around that time that one of Pinto's friends, who had also attended the dinner, convinced him to turn on the coin. For full coverage, check out Dan Alexander.
So the point with this is and this is not just with Donald Trump, but I think he probably takes the cake in this, what I just mentioned about utilizing the White House for financial gains for him, his family, and his friends. It's wrong. We all know that. He probably will take the cake as the most that's ever done that. And that's what I'm saying. I still think he's got a CEO hat on, and he's not being the president. Don't think so? Same thing with these dumb MAGA people. They're like, yeah, this war in Iran is good. In fact, MAGA people are like, David, I don't believe you ever supported the president. Yeah, and I don't believe you ever supported military veterans. And again, if you don't support military veterans, that's another dialogue, and I'll buy that for $1. But the point is, if you're going to be MAGA and you're going to say we support military veterans, I don't believe that. So, meaning we're becoming a directionless, rudderless boat. The only direction that I say that is confident to follow is you follow the money. Why? Because we're a corporation, and President Trump is a CEO. This is one from Gavin Newsom. Now, I'm telling you, before we let, I'm not supporting the Democrats at all. Not like this is another reason why, remember I said the first FBI whistleblowers, they got a lot of attention and I got none? Because if you know how I talk, I'm not a fan of the Republicans. I'm not a fan of the Democrats. And I say it, the number one enemy of America is the globalist government, the globalist corporations. What's also corporations in America? The media, Fox News and CNN. Do you see why a person like me would be immediately silenced? So again, this is Gavin Newsom, but that doesn't mean someone is 100% wrong, or this is why it's, I don't want to change the subject, but remember Adolf Hitler? Have you ever seen anything positive about this guy? When they portray someone as 100% wrong, negative, evil, something's wrong. Nobody is 100% evil and nobody's 100% good. So Gavin Newsom, are there things that he's saying that I might say I agree with? Absolutely. Does that mean I support the Democrats? Dude, I'm not even into voting. I say it again. This system's going to collapse. This is Gavin Newsom. Do I think he's right? He's right.
And that same 10% own 93. Well, look, 10% of people own 2/3 the wealth in this nation. That same 10% own 93% of the stock market. 30-year-old today is doing worse than his or her parents for the first time in U.S. history. If that's not a 5-alarm fire, I don't know what the hell is. We were sitting there, some of us at least, celebrating the best of Roman Republic, Greek democracy on July 4th. The vision of our founding fathers, co-equal branches of government, popular sovereignty, rule of law. But I'm reminded, thinking about the Greeks, there was a guy around 50 AD, 2,000 years ago, warning the Athenians, Plutarch. He said, the imbalance between the rich and the poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. Think about that. 2,000 years ago, there was warning the Athenians that the imbalance between the rich and the poor. And fast forward today, the first trillionaire is minted. At the same time, we have 20 states still paying $7.25 an hour. Something's fundamentally broken here. And that wealth is creating power locking in rules and regulations, locking everybody else out. You can't play in the margins anymore. We can't fail more efficiently.
So are the Democrats going to fix this problem, Gavin? No, I think they want to bring in some type of communism. They're not going to fix it. But what I say is, what's the big picture? I think this America, the collapse is coming with or without the Democrats or the Republicans. This is the force of nature. Empires eventually go. And what I want to do is, again, we're going to show this clip. It's going to happen. You're going to see the American empire fall. And the point being is sometimes it's inevitable. There's nothing fixing this, people. Nothing fixing this.
It happens at a pace, and the world order is definitely changing, but it happens at a pace in which it's like watching a child grow or people change, in that there are these moments, but that evolutionary change can almost be elusive to us. We might not see that, but we see symptoms of it. And as you know, I believe it's driven by 5 major forces, which are the debt money economy force, the internal political and social order, the international world order, how countries deal with each other, what the system is, acts of nature and technologies. And so we are seeing with the war in Iran, we are seeing a change in the perception of the United States and its population, its willingness to fight a war and endure. You know, if you fight a war, it's painful, costly, and people die and all of that. And because there's a reluctance to do that, and there are other constraints such as financial constraints, and also how many resources do you put into this? What's your military hardware like? All of those constraints has led to a general perception among a lot of world leaders that maybe the United States and the American public are going to be less reliable in standing up of enforcing that world order. So it may enter into the issue of alliances, you know, and that changes the world order. And of course, there's a rising power in the form, particularly China. So we have, you know, let's say the two leading powers in many ways, not only just the size of their economies, but the.
I want to reiterate this, and I give a shout out. Malcolm, I'm forgetting his name. Is it Ian Malcolm 84? He's invited me back to do another X talk and wants me to talk about China. I know more about China than probably anyone in the United States government. I want to mention that because he talks about rising power. China's going to rise. It's already happened. We see it. But make sure you know my prediction. China will not be the new global superpower. And the reason I say this is again, this American empire, very similar to the Roman Empire, always threats, always military campaigns, and there's going to be threat after threat after threat. But China's going to rise, you like it or not. It won't be the next world superpower. But like I said, my prediction of the American collapse, America may not collapse into total rubble like you see these sci-fi movies, but think of the Soviet Union, which was a global superpower that collapsed down to Russia, where Russia is still a legitimate regional power. So that's the minimum that's going to happen to America. So America still will be a very powerful regional power. It ain't going to be a global power anymore. The world is going to be shared, and China is going to take one of the spots. But I just want to make sure we mention that.
New technologies and so on. These are two great powers. And the important thing in the new world order is how those parties get along and how they operate with each other. And I think it's important to understand the Chinese approach. And that Chinese approach, which has developed really over thousands of years to an American audience or a non-Chinese audience. When I say thousands of years, it seems implausible. But there is a culture, a deep culture, in terms of the desire not to fight.
Let me add on that. Again, this is not a China video. We're going to move on. I didn't know he was going to be talking about China so much. But anyway, China is a country. And I've said this many times. You're like, yeah, so America's a country. No, we're not. We're a corporation. Like literally, if you take money out of the equation, what is America? I don't know what we are. Our freedoms are good. We're not a Christian nation anymore. We're not. You know, again, you see all these Americans, they're trying to fight for Christianity around the world. And then there's no doubt about in China is, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not attacking Christianity, but it's not a Christian nation. So you have Christians in America saying we need to defend Christianity in China. Defending China, we don't have Christianity in America anymore. We're not a Christian nation. We're not a European nation. Really? Are we a white? You start saying America's a white country belongs to the white man. Yeah, good luck with that. Freedoms, freedom of speech, the amount of censorship that I've had, we can go on and on. We are not. We are a globalist corporation. We follow the money. China is a civilization that has lasted thousands upon thousands of years. And what do I think to just simplify this? Again, we're just going to say this because this is not a China video, but we'll talk later. If I had to simplify China in one word that keeps them cohesive, what is Chinese people? Yes, race is real. I know even the MAGA people are very libtards with this concept that really race is real. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Have you ever heard of it? It's a thing called ethnicity. It's something real. Talk to the Jews if you don't believe me. They believe in it. But that would probably be their central. They are a people. If you're going to have a country, we don't have I don't know who an American is anymore. Everyone just jumbled together. The only thing that keeps America cohesive is what? Money. Once that money goes, oh, we'll kill each other in America. Well, it's going to get worse.
But the element of there are differences in powers and there's hierarchy. And what that means is that there's a system for dealing with that in which the more powerful deal with the less powerful in a certain way that is considerate, and that there's mutual consideration, and an attempt to not have fighting wars as the means of resolving that. And they have the art of war. The art of war is a philosophy, essentially, in that if you're having physical damaging each other, you mustn't have been smart enough to win without that. And so that comes to knowing how to exert pressure and so on. Well, these things are now changing the world order. So it's not the United States as being the American order all around the world. We are coming into this other order in which you're going to have to find a way of being able to have conflicts and resolve conflicts without use of military. We all hope for that. And so their tribute system is an interesting system to watch out. When I say there, I mean the Chinese tribute system is an interesting system to follow. I believe that you're going to see them follow a tribute system, art of war type of system. And I think that it's of all of our interest to understand what that is.
Yeah, so part of me is giving you a glimpse of the future, and that is through my experience. And China is an ingredient and is a component of the future. And what is their political ideology? It's something called National Socialism, or call it fascism. It's going to be part of the future. Also, I'm giving you a glimpse of the future, how the United States government has treated a U.S. military veteran, this secret police, spying, putting you on watch list. You have not seen anything yet. This would never happen 50 years ago. Even the American public would rally behind a U.S. military veteran. We don't care. And I get it. Meaning, I get a lot of American citizens. They're like, fuck them, these military veterans. They're not serving us. They're serving the corporation. I get it. But I'm trying to show you is, one is, and we could look at this from many angles in terms of predicting the future. But from my stance, one, China is part of the future. What is their political ideology? It's not like us. It's evil communism. It's evil fascism. It's evil. Well, then why did Trump go there to kiss ass? It's called National Socialism. That's part of the future. You're seeing me. Remember, people say, well, David, if you haven't done anything illegal, the FBI would never be spying. I'm telling you, when the empire starts collapsing, you don't have to do anything illegal. If the government believes you're a political threat, good luck to you. Because our system is the same reason that I got legal justice in China. I didn't get justice in America for my court case. I wasn't even allowed to present my course. Why? Because I was going up against Boeing, which is more powerful than the CIA and the FBI. You have no clue how powerful Boeing is. And a federal judge who colluded. And what you're seeing is once you push against that system. Now, before, when America was the milk and honey, then there was a law. It was more black and white. Now that the empire is falling, things are becoming more stressed. And when that stress is put to the system, if they deem you, they meaning the globalist government, as a political threat, regardless if there's any evidence, you're gonna wake up to a new world. Most American citizens aren't, because the government doesn't view you as a threat yet. They view me as a threat. What did I do illegally? Nothing. Don't think so? Then let's show the evidence. Let's show the evidence. So they hide. Very similar. This reminds me of East Germany, the Stasi. Something that I wrote to Senator Chuck Grassley. You want to know why Senator Chuck Grassley also never responded to me in 2007? They don't care about you. They don't. It just doesn't matter. They don't care. The FBI spying on America. They don't care. You're going to see it. Remember these videos. Hi, Golden Tulip. I see it. You're going to see these videos go. You're going to see a future. And China is going to take more and more of a piece of the global order, number one. And you're going to start thinking, yeah, this guy, David Baumblatt, he was telling us about the American empire. It's collapsing. It's becoming more corrupt, the debt, the nepotism, and it's happening. You're going to have less and less faith in the American justice system. See how it goes. Now, this one's about a Democrat. I'm not in favor of these Democrats. Is he speaking truth to power? He is. He's speaking truth.
destroying America, the only minority destroying America is the billionaires.
So I'm going to caveat this. Again, this is where I disagree with the Democrats. So if you're a liberal, I don't know, you're gay, all this stuff, we have to come to terms. We're probably not going to live in a harmonious society together. Where did I learn that from? China. What does China believe in? Homogeny. So if we'll just say you're a liberal for many reasons, racial, whatever. We have to admit, we're probably not meant to live together long term. But so that's why I disagree with these Democrats. They want this communism kumbaya. That's not going to work. But I agree with this. He's a Democrat. I agree with this Democrat. And I'm telling you, if you're a liberal out there, I'm not your number one enemy. The far right is not your number one enemy. The number one enemy truly are these 1%ers.
Trans people are 1% of the population. Muslims are 1% of the population. Undocumented people are 1% of the population. We are focused on the wrong 1%. Trans people aren't taking away our health care. Muslims aren't defunding our schools. Immigrants aren't cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends. It's the billionaires and their puppet politicians. The culture wars are a smokescreen. So many of the divisions in this state and in this country are manufactured by billionaires who want us fighting each other instead of fighting them. They want us looking left and right at our neighbors instead of looking up at them. The biggest divide in our politics is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom.
Okay, so I agree with them. The number one enemy is top. What I'm not going to agree with them is this kumbaya, we're all going to come together and get along. We're just too diverse. We're a 350 million nation, too diverse. And my thing is just split up the states. But he is right on this. The number one problem, if you're one of these, you hear it all the time from these MAGA, the problem in America are these liberals. Oh, really? Like these liberals are growing. Think about it. We're a corporation. Who has the power? Follow the money. Most of these liberals are unemployed, crappy work. A lot of these white supremacists, they're probably working at McDonald's. They don't have the power. I would probably say, who's controlling us? Well, the 1%, they got the money. So they're the one controlling us. Is it a good society? I don't know. I left America. If you think it's enjoying, then okay, maybe we're not going to collapse. Maybe it's good. But if you don't like America, if you're not satisfied, who's the people you should point the blame to? Those who have the power. Yeah, these liberal yo-yos don't have power. Same thing with the white supremacists. They don't have power. Hey, Elon Musk has got a lot of power, but Elon Musk is a good guy. I don't know. That piece of shit suspended me on X. Why would he do that? I'm a military veteran. For what? I don't know. And I have to depend on Elon Musk for free speech. Let him serve in the military, though he never served. I don't know. I don't have a high opinion of these Democrats, these Republicans, these corporations, these 1%ers. Now remember, I'm not a communist. I don't mind if people have high income and low income. I don't want low income, though, to where you're destitute and poor. You have low income, though, but you could at least live a modest life. You're not going to be able to, live with your toys and have multiple houses, stuff like that. But it's sort of like the military. You got a mess hall, you got a bunk bed. There's some level of decency. Same thing, I don't mind people being rich. You have to reward men that are hardworking, that are smart, that are risk-taking. How much now? I don't know. I mean, in terms of if you say, well, David, how much are they allowed to do? Well, I think it's more about changing the system, more about the money. But I could tell you something. If someone made tens of millions of dollars, even 100 million, maybe so. In today's age, I could go with that. So I don't mind if someone is rich. These people are beyond rich now. These people, anything close to a billionaire, it's wrong, people. You think I'm wrong? Well, then, okay, let's see where the system goes. But there's something about China. What's going on with China? They don't have this system. They seem to be doing well. I don't know. Let's take a look at this.
Talk about an extreme like a Now, wait a second. There's always been inequality, but when you talk about an extreme like a trillionaire, okay, how many jobs has Elon created? How many billions in taxes has he already paid? How many new technologies did he develop without government assistance initially? How much risk did he take when SpaceX was public?
I'm all for people being rewarded for
failed in
taking risk.
2008. And I argue to you that everybody that tries this will get to the same place as Cuba, North Korea.
And what about China?
Russia?
Okay, this is the elephant in the room we find.
He's right. China is the element in the room. And I've said that. I view one of China's greatest leaders as Deng Xiaoping. I can look at Mao Zedong because, there's no doubt when you win a war, and he won a war, not like our generals today. They don't win wars. Our generals now are CEOs. They're worried about their next job. I want to work for Boeing. I want to work for Lockheed Martin. They want to work for the military industrial complex. Our generals don't care about the people. Mao Zedong cared about his people, and he won a war. His political ideology, communism, I'm not a fan of. But guess what? They had to wait until Mao Zedong died. That's how it is. It's a dangerous game, this role. But when he died, a new guy came in called Deng Xiaoping. And I think Deng Xiaoping is look hot. And that's when he started opening. He transitioned from communism to fascism or National Socialism. But it is the elephant in the room. Communism is bad. Socialism is bad. Fascism is bad. Nationalism is bad. Then why did Trump and the MAGA grifters go to Beijing and kiss ass? And someone who considers himself a China expert, I am telling you, American Western countries come to China and they kiss ass. Why would they do that? If the Chinese system is not working, then why is it viewed as a threat? They, like we all say in America, the MAGA, like communism doesn't work, then let the countries collapse then, right? Think about it. It's like he's running the corporation. He doesn't know how to run it. He's going to run it bad. Well, then eventually it's probably going to go bankrupt, right? Now, it's true, there's probably some communist countries that are just hanging by a thread, but, whatever, let them do it. I mean, do we care as Americans? But China's a little different. China's not hanging by a thread. It continues to get more and more powerful, economic and military. Well, then if that ideology is wrong, how can they become so powerful to where Americans, government, view them as a threat, and American corporations want to get money from them? And American citizens like to buy cheap stuff. It's a very logical question to ask. If this communism or fascism or social, we don't even know what these terms are, we just throw them out. But MAGA throws them out. Then explain China. I could explain China very, very well. It's called National Socialism. And I'm telling you, we in America are not National Social. We are globalists. These corporations have changed us. This war, I keep saying, is about globalism versus nationalism. And who's in this globalist group? The 1%ers. If you really want to make money, nationalism is. When I joined the military, I didn't say, man, I'm joining the military, I'm making a lot of money. I didn't join the FBI to make a lot of money. I joined for duty on our country. It wasn't there. It just wasn't there, and I left. So there are motivation factors that aren't about money. But if your number one factor is money, go globalism. That's how you make the most money. That's our system's based on globalism. Then why would you do nationalism where money is not the biggest incentive? I don't know. Maybe there's things other than money, family, your people, tradition, your religion. The daughter comes home and says, Dad, I could date two guys. I could date a rich, multi-millionaire Muslim, or I could date, whatever, a middle-class Christian. Maybe your father would say, we're a Christian family, and we're going to choose Christianity. But Dad, the Muslim man is a millionaire. We have values that go up. I mean, does anyone have it? Even West Point now is just turned to shit. I mean, duty on our country is a joke now. If anyone doesn't believe me what I'm saying, well, think about even Donald Trump has got Pete Hegseth. He even believes the military's gone down, and it has. But if anyone doesn't believe what I'm saying and what I'm preaching here, then let's see. Let's see where America goes. Because I'm telling you, it's going to collapse. But if it doesn't, and America gets better, I don't know where it's going. Countries don't pivot. Countries continue to go down a path until they either succeed or fail. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. What's my bet? Well, I mean, I wrote a book on it. I think it's going to collapse. It is what it is. But anyway, let's keep going on this.
People have been saying to me for decades, what country is trying your approach? I've had me say that I can't nominate one. Now I can nominate China. And China's been far more effective at dragging people out of poverty. And it's also whipping America's industrial ass. Now, this is something which you're going to tell me China's
Pretty interesting. Again, you hear MAGA, they do these terms. They're like, yeah, the best system is capitalism. We're not capitalists anymore, people. And just to show you my background, my father, and we get, like I said, I always said, besides my father, my biggest teachers were the military, which, oh, by the way, if you really study the military, what is that political ideology? It's fascism. That's what the military is. I know it's got a bad word. It's weird. In America, you could sell communism easier than you could sell fascism. Probably because it's attached to Adolf Hitler. Anything attached to Adolf Hitler, people just go, oh my God. But if you really look at fascism or National Socialism, really, it's so evil? How do you know? What the fuck do people know now? What are you learning it from? Well, I learned it from Hollywood, that it's evil. Oh, that's great. Or I learned it from our politicians. You mean the people who betrayed you? But if you look at the military, and I go back to what I said about money, if you go to the military, the difference between, we'll just say pay and benefits, between an E1 private and an O10 four-star general in the military, it's drastic. But the E1 private still has a bunk, still has food, he still has medical and dental care, and an E1 private, he still lives an honorable life. You know, I guess you could say the word humanity. There is still a sense of respect. And the general, the four-star, lives a really good life. But I have to defend the generals, and I don't like today's general. I think they suck. But the generals, the amount of money they make versus in the corporate world, the rich, millions and millions and tens of millions, and it's nothing. So again, being in the military, I get it. The military has a bit of meritocracy, and you've got to reward top talent, and the bottom talent's the bottom talent. But the rich in the military, the four-star general, they're not mega rich. And the E1 private, they still have the basic necessities of life. But anyway, you hear this guy, I forgot this guy's name who was on here, Mr. Wonderful from Canada. Yeah, I'm not into him. And he's such a, why did you serve in the military, Mr. Wonderful, if you're such a patriot? You know, all these tough businessmen never want to serve in the military, to include Donald Trump. And yeah, there's talks about Donald Trump. He never dodged the draft. He dodged the draft. He got deferments. End of story. If you're going to be a leader, now, if Donald Trump is an individual, sleazy private businessman, I still wouldn't like what he did, but it's not. Donald Trump wants to now he's in public office. He's the commander in chief. He's the president. He wants to serve the people. It's a black mark. You should have volunteered, Donald Trump. You don't need to get deferred. You don't need to get waived. You should have said, I volunteer for Vietnam. Why? Because one day I want to become the president of the United States and I believe in public service. Or at the very least, he could say, I didn't go to Vietnam because it was an unjust war and I'm against war. And now that I'm president, I'm not going to get us into wars. I can at least buy that. That's what I thought. We don't have these values anymore. We have these billionaires now preaching us. We have in America, believe it or not, there's more morality in China. We in America, where does our morality come from? It doesn't come from church. Church is dead. It comes from Hollywood. Oh, that's a good one. It comes from our politicians. They suck. And it comes from the people who really control us, the corporations. The corporations don't have values. The number one mission of a corporation is to make money. That's all it is. We weren't, the thought that we're influenced by China or Russia. Now they're trying to influence us. I get that. What's the most amount of influence do we have in America? The corporations. And what value system do the corporations have? Nothing. It's make money. It's the same reason when I left America in 2010, I told my West Point buddy, what is America now? Make money and have fun. Hedonism, individual. Good luck. I said, good luck with that. Where's it going to go? And I left 16 years ago. And what's my prediction? Even stronger. What's my prediction on China? Even stronger. China's growing. Why? Maybe their ideology is better than ours. And I'm not against capitalism, but we don't have capitalism anymore. It's not there. Disagree with me? Look at this guy. This guy's another Democrat. You know this guy's name. And now what's so funny is now you have MAGA attacking him because they're calling him a neo-Nazi. I guess I don't know him that much, but he tried to run for Maine, I think senator. He's a military veteran. I guess he's a neo-Nazi. Okay. I thought that was MAGA though. MAGA's neo-Nazi. No, MAGA now is against racism and they're against neo-Nazis. I don't know what we stand for anymore in America, except it's money. It's all about money. But listen to what this guy says. And again, I don't know him. I don't know if I support him. Again, I'm not into the Democrats. But listen to what he says. Do I think he's right? Absolutely right.
Today there are over 900 In 1990, there were fewer than 80 billionaires in the United States. Today, there are over 900. Now, when you look around, do you see a state of Maine that is 10 times wealthier than 1990? Do Mainers have 10 times the free time? Have our wages gone up 10 times? Do we have 10 times the schools? 10 times the hospitals? No, we have less. We have fewer schools, fewer hospitals. Fewer young Mainers can afford a place to live. Our paychecks don't go as far. We have to take on extra hours at work just to make rent. The money went somewhere, and it wasn't down here. It was stolen from us. Stolen from us in a rigged system.
I think he's 100% right. Now, I'm not saying the solution I'm going to agree with is solution. Pebble says, can you please define what you mean by collapse? How do you see the collapse playing out? Yeah, Pebbles, I'll do a quick thing. But what I don't believe the solution where the Democrats, I think the Democrats may be looking for this sort of communism, or they say, what do they say? They say they're social democrats. Again, you know what I find interesting too is you find these, sometimes they're liberals, or it doesn't matter now. They could be Republicans or Democrats, and they sometimes compliment China for China's success. I compliment China for their success, but they're national socialists. They're an ethno-state. So you get some people, so I am the Republican, and I say I'm absolutely against Adolf Hitler, and I think China's doing very well. Well, I can tell you, they're pro-Adolf Hitler. Or you get the liberal that says, the problem in America is racism. But man, I like China. China's one of the most racist countries I've ever seen. So we have to balance our logic. I believe China is doing better and better. China is also an ethno-state. What do I mean by that? Well, part of it is these. So he was a Democrat senator. He's running for senator. I totally agree with him. Our system is corrupt. It's so. But I'm not going to agree that the solution is communism. Now, I don't know if that's what he said, but you hear that. Like, we have to all come together. First of all, you have to, in Leadership 101, you have to define who is we. And what is something? This is, again, my background. I served in the military. I was ranked number 2 at West Point for leadership. I know leadership. The problem with leadership is most people are followers to include a West Point now. So they stay out of trouble. If you're going to be a leader, sometimes you're going to go up against the system. You lose, you die. If you win, then you become like George Washington. Not like that was my goal, because sometimes lead, follow, or get out of the way. Leadership lesson 101. Leadership, if there's a problem, you lead, you follow, you lead, take charge. That wasn't me. Even though I consider myself a leader, I'm not taking charge. This system's going to collapse. Follow, that's possible. Follow behind a leader. And I think a lot of people try to put Donald Trump as he's the leader going to follow, because we can't all be leaders. We have to work together as a team. Some people have to follow. I don't see anyone. Now, it was true when Donald Trump first ran, I could say I was a bit of a follower. There's no doubt. And I said, hey, I've been drifting more and more away from Donald Trump. But who am I following? I don't see anyone in America. None. I don't see any MAGA. I don't see any Democrats. So what was the third option? Well, what I did in 2010, get out of the way. Stop being just get out of the way. But anyway, this system is going to get worse and worse. Let's play one more, Pebbles. I'll go back. This is the last clip. Now, this clip is about a black kid, and it's MAGA interviewing him. Guess what? I agree with this black kid here. I agree with him. We're going to do this clip, and it just shows, again, why America is collapsing. We don't have patriotism anymore. We don't have a country. I don't even know what brings us together. We don't have military veterans. We don't have American citizens who respect military veterans. We don't have military veterans who even respect each other. We don't like each other. Not good, people. It's going to get worse and worse. Let's play this short clip, and then I'll end it. I'll take any questions.
Are you proud to be an American?
Not really.
No, why
not? America's imperialism and its destruction of the global poor.
Okay. How are we committing destruction against the global poor?
I mean, if you don't know that, then, there's no really point in trying to explain it to you.
Just like 10 seconds. Give me.
So again, I get it. I'm not saying I agree everything with this black kid. Notice I keep saying black kid. Well, that's what he is. He's a black kid. He's a black man. Again, race is real. I don't have a problem with black people. I've never had any problems with them. Read my book. I was suspended from the FBI unpaid for 2 weeks, helping out a black guy, gave him $8,000 of my money. But I'm not saying I agree everything what he's saying, but when it's done, I'm going to counter this. But I do agree with him that I think more and more Americans from every walk in life are starting to check out of the system. Why? This system's corrupt. It's not for you anymore. Don't think so? Or World War II veterans, you think they would sign up and say, and anyone who disagrees with me, let's have a military draft. Let Donald Trump, I've said many times, I hope Donald Trump does a ground invasion. I've said this many times. You're going to see Donald Trump really come to his moniker, Taco Trump, which is an embarrassing moniker to have as a leader. He's going to taco out. I hope he doesn't, though. I hope he does a full ground invasion into Iran. I hope they get fucking slaughtered. Why? Because that's not honorable. If you want to be a military mercenary, which our troops are, yeah, go for it. I'm not going to thank you. But if you think as a military veteran, you're going to go in Iran and that's duty on our country, you're going to get my freedoms back, no way. But anyway, let's keep going on what this black kid said. I'm not saying I agree with everything he's saying.
The gist.
Nah. I mean, I feel like if people don't get it now, they're never going to get it.
What country would you be proud to be part of?
I'm not much of a flag waver. I don't think I really align myself with any country.
Okay, well, what country would you like to be a part of rather than America?
See, this is another reason why they don't want to get me on, literally. Again, and I'm not saying this arrogant. I still believe America is a great country. And when I left America, I was very proud to be there and this and that. But the truth is, there are other countries that Americans, I'm not saying a lot because America is a first tier country. You think there are a lot of Americans hanging out in Africa saying, great. But the truth is told, there are Americans who leave America like myself. Nothing negative about America, but they don't want you to hear this, but it's not that bad outside of America. But it's true. America is a first tier country. So the competition is tough for America. But are there Americans who have left America and they're happy living in another country? Yeah, believe it or not, it is. I mean, my biggest issue is I want my passport stopped to be flagged and I want to get off the watch list. And I should be able to return to America on a business trip, see a family or friend. But if for the rest of my life, I cannot go back to America for the rest of my life, I'll live with it. It's not that bad. But again, a lot of these MAGA people are like, America is the best country on earth. I don't know. What other countries have you lived in? Most of these MAGA people, to include America, you've never lived in another country. How do you know? Well, I heard on Fox News that's over. I'm ended with that. But truth be told, there are other countries in the world where Americans can go to. It's not that bad. Is that a gig on America saying America sucks? No. Like I said, when I left America, I wasn't like, screw you, America, you're a horrible country. Not at all. I was, again, thankful for being born in America. It's a good country, but I think it's going to collapse. Sorry. I've never said that China is this great. I just personally went to China. I could speak the Chinese language, and I do believe China is going to be a significant power. But I've never, ever said go to China. In fact, if you're a non-ethnically Chinese person, Hong Kong's a little different, Macau's different, Taiwan's a little different. I generally wouldn't recommend you going to China, but if you're a Chinese American, that could be different. So I'm not on the bandwagon saying go to China. But there are other kinds. I have a friend living in Singapore, having good times and this and that. But we'll go back. But you hear the story. What other country is better than America? I don't know. I can name a few. I don't believe you. Meaning if this is a MAGA person. I don't know. Have you lived in other countries your whole life or in your life? No. Then how do you know? I have. I mean, I would say, in fact, most studies have shown that American military men have the most amount of experience overseas than civilians, just by the state you're stationed overseas, you're deployed overseas, training overseas. But even after the military, I mean, I have more international experience than by far 99% plus of Americans. And what's my conclusion? America's still a top tier country, no doubt about it. It's a top tier country. So meaning the competition is stiff to beat America. But are there countries that could beat America in your personal opinion? Yes. Meaning I'm saying logical. I'm not going to believe, generally speaking, you're going to say, I'm going to move to Africa and I believe it's better than America. It's going to take me a little bit harder to believe that. But you got people in Europe and Canada, yes, in Asia, even in South, there are places there that there are Americans that are saying, you know something, I'm happy. I don't need to go back to America. Is that a gig on America? I don't know. It's freedom. They want to go to another country, let them go. Maybe they'll come back. It is what it is. But there is this arrogance in America. This is the best country on earth. No, I don't know. What do you know? How do you know? What other countries have you lived in? Do you speak any foreign languages? This is the same reason I talk about multiracialism. I know I'm doing a little tangent, but Americans are like, multiracialism is awesome. How do you know? I'm assuming you're a white guy. You were born and raised generally in a white environment your whole life. I've lived in multiracialism. It's called China. If you want to be a foreigner in a foreign country like me, it's okay because China belongs to the Chinese, and I agree with that. I don't have any problem with that. You don't want to be a racial minority in your own country, in your home. I disagree with you, David. I think it's great. How do you know? Have you ever lived as a racial minority? Probably not. Well, then you're talking out your asshole. You don't know. So again, I don't want to, but I'm not saying I agree with all of what this black kid said, but there is this retardedness about MAGA, and we're gonna get to the punchline quick.
I mean, again, you're asking me about like two different things, you know?
That's a separate question.
Yeah. I mean, whether or not I'm like proud to be an American doesn't mean that I would be like proud to be a part of any other country.
I just asked which country would you rather be a citizen of instead? Is there anywhere else in the world that you would say
I don't know. I'll give you some history on Singapore. Here's the trivia question. I mean, there's not many viewers. Who's the richest person in Singapore? The richest person in Singapore. Singapore is considered the Switzerland of Asia. Who's the richest person in Singapore? It's not an Asian person. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Facebook, you know, the real movie with Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. His business partner, I'm forgetting the guy's name, Eduardo. I believe he originated from Brazil. Even I see eye to eye with him in many ways. He was born and raised in Brazil, immigrated to America, got his American citizenship, and then the American government doesn't like him. What he did was legal. It was before the IPO, or maybe not the IPO, when the stocks came out, because he was, he had that lawsuit, that falling out with Mark Zuckerberg, but he had a lot of stocks. And something like it was going to go public. And if you're an American citizen, you pay taxes on all that. As a Singaporean citizen, you don't pay any taxes. He moved to Singapore, got a Singapore citizenship, gave up his American citizenship. He's the richest person in Singapore. I'm telling you, Singapore is not a bad country. Now, that's just one example. But and he even said too, he goes, I was born, he considers himself very international. But the more international you get, you see the world. But anyway, the richest person in Singapore, and he's made his home. He's got the biggest house in Singapore, is an American who gave up his American citizenship. This is the Facebook, and he moved to Singapore. Can I think of many other examples? Yes, but I will defend America. America is a tier 1 country. It is a superpower, so it's not going to be easy to beat America. It's going to be moderately difficult to beat America, but it can be done. Especially if you go to, I know another American, he's a military veteran. He is now a New Zealand citizen. And, he also thinks there's going to be World War III. He wanted to get a nice farm, and he's living in New Zealand. He likes it. So there are examples on this. Now, that's not saying to leave America. If you like America, leave. This wasn't anything about what I'm saying. But I am saying there's going to be a collapse, and you better figure out what you want to do. People leaving America, though, it's increasing every year, exponentially increasing. You're going to make the decision. But anyway, let's finish this and I'll wrap it up.
I would prefer to live there and be that country's citizen rather than here in America because I'm not proud to be from here.
No, I mean, this is my home, regardless.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, that I love what America does or what it stands for.
That's a good question, actually. What does America stand for? Is it only destroying the global poor, or is there anything good?
No.
Not a single thing good that America does.
Maybe there's a difference between American politicians and American people, but no, I can't think of a single thing.
I'm scared to go out.
So again, I could think of good things in America, but this MAGA woman, she's like, are you proud? I'd say, are you proud to be an American? And what she'd say, absolutely. Do you support military veterans? And you know the party line. Absolutely. Well, can you have me on your show here and send my word out to the government? Why am I on the watch list? Complete silence. So there's a lot of talk. A lot of these it's the same thing with her. Do you love America? Absolutely. Are you willing to die for America? Of course, they'll say yes. Yeah. We'll wait till a military draft comes. There'll be most of these MAGA people who like to just wave the flag and say, you wait till a military draft comes. They won't even be heard of. Because again, what I'm trying to show you is I'm a military veteran that came online here 2 years ago. The politicians know about me. The media knows about me. MAGA knows about me. Now, am I an anomaly? I could be. And if I'm an anomaly, then no big deal. But if I'm not an anomaly in terms of a patriotic citizen, I'm a military veteran, and I'm ignored basically by the establishment, and I have government corruption to report, then that's a cover-up. That's corruption. And if I'm not alone, that's not good, people. This system's going to fall. And I think I'm absolutely not alone. It's getting worse and worse. I think Trump's popularity is worse and worse. But if you go, I don't like Trump now, I'm going to go to the Democrats. Oh my God, you're part of the ping pong team. That's exactly what they want, the establishment. Just keep voting back and forth. Anyway, let me wrap this up and say, so Pebble says, can you describe the collapse? So there's going to be in 3 phases. I believe phase 1 will be a collapse. Phase 2 will be a revolution. And phase 3 could quite possibly be a civil war. And the reason I say this, I don't believe America will split. The difference is when the Soviet Union split, it split down state lines. And what do I mean by that? The Soviet Union had all these satellite states, Eastern Europe, and they maintained their unity. In fact, I'm very familiar with Poland. I have a lot of Polish friends, and that Russia maintained Russia. So they all kind of dissolved down to their original statehood, collapsed, but into their originally manufactured state. America has 50 states. You start talking split, that's a split. Nuclear weapons, military base, meaning it's going to be a lot more complicated and a lot more violent than the Soviet Union. Why? Because Washington, D.C., where Moscow allowed the collapse, because they probably were like, we can't do anything, but at least we'll have Russia. You think Washington, D.C. is going to say, well, a couple states are going to leave, a couple more, it's going to dissolve, and we're just going to be in Washington? They won't do it. The military will be activated. I even think Donald Trump, he will activate the military and the national security, even for these midterm elections. Either way, people, use common sense. America was forged with violence. America has practiced violence basically the entire existence, to include me as a West Point graduate. I agree, join the military. And violence many times can be justified. And we continue to use violence. And you don't think this time the American government say, well, we don't want to use violence because we're not willing to kill our fellow American citizens. Bullshit. We have one civil war, we'll have another. But back to the story, Pebbles, in terms of define, I would say is without a doubt, the defining factor that's going to cause a collapse will be economic. It'll be economic. I believe that we could be facing, unlike 2008, the recession, it could be the 1920s depression. That's how bad. Once that gets to that level of economic despair, all options are on the table. And what do I mean by all options? All scenarios, to include all options that the government, and if you think this thing called the Constitution is going to protect you, you are an absolute moron. Won't even happen. That Constitution will turn into toilet paper. Meaningless. Meaningless. We are a globalist corporation. If this money train stops, violence is coming and all bets are off. But once that goes, I'm telling you, then it's going to be triggered. You're going to see it worse and worse. But I would just say, and notice what's today's topic on, capitalism more and more. This is also, and we'll end it here because I don't want to talk too much long, but anytime you see the government trying to do free stuff like the COVID vaccine, hey, get your free COVID vaccine. That should immediately have your antenna wires up. This thing called universal basic income, free money. You really think the government cares about you and gives you free money? What do I think? Well, if you're going to have all this money in the world, the top 1%, it doesn't mean anything if the system collapses. So they don't want the system to collapse. Why? Because it's working out very well for them. I mean, if you're in the top 1%, you're like, listen, I don't know if this system's called capitalism, communism, nepotism. I don't care what it is, but I like it. I am now a multi-billionaire. It's working for me. So they don't want the system to collapse. But they know that if economic despair happens, you don't think people are going to go guns and ammo 3 days without food? I think it's like 3 meals. People are 3 meals away from violence. So they'd say, universal basic income. Let me do the math. Okay, I'll still be a billionaire. They're going to, and then what is it going to do to the masses? Just like the COVID vaccine, it's going to sedate you more and more and more to be a plebe or a pawn of the state. Because most Americans would be like, hell, I don't have to work. I get universal basic income and social. And they say, sure, as long as you do A, B, and C, just follow the rules. There's your milk and honey. There's your chips and cookie. There's your friggin', what is it? The bread and circus. And I think most Americans would take that. But then now we're going to go into a whole new form where it's not going to be collapse. It's going to be transformation. And then you think about what this Orwellian world is that it could be where the globalists. Either way, I think people are realizing it's going to get worse and worse. It's not getting better. And think about it. If you're a Trump supporter, this is his second term. When is it going to get good? Some MAGA people, it's already good. It's doing great. Okay, then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is working. What do I see? Don't see that much. I mean, yeah, he's doing, but I defend him. I don't picture another politician doing anything better than him. Because I keep saying it's going to be state politics, but it's also going to be coupled with violence. But so I defend Trump. I still defend him. That is, who's better? Gavin Newsom? No way. But has he succeeded? I don't think so. Even for me, they're corrupt. These people, the FBI, he puts an Indian man as the FBI. He knows about me. So I don't see anything, but it's going to get worse and worse and worse. But I also predicted this. I said this system that's based on history, one man, Donald Trump and the Trump or the MAGA, you think they're going to save it? No way. This is who knows? This could be biblical in terms of, Bible prophecies, history. We are going down this route sort of like the Titanic, and there's no changing it. You might get a life raft like me. I mean, again, when I left in America in 2010, people were like, you're crazy. Now people are starting to think more and more about leaving America. It's drastically changed about leaving America, to include the top 1%. They got to get their other passport, citizenship, and their other house. But either way, it's a Titanic. It's going to get worse and worse. Don't think so? We'll see where it goes. But I do want to end the video here. If you think this is called capitalism in America, no way. Capitalism, the foundation was small business entrepreneurs. That era died out decades ago. Our capitalism now is defined by globalist, multinational corporations. Yeah, good luck with that thing. That's called globalism. And that's why China is doing better than America. It is. They're growing. Where we're declining, they're growing. Why? They have embraced nationalism. What have we embraced? Like it or not, we've embraced globalism. This war is going to be about globalism versus nationalism. And where's the top 1%? Well, they're globalists. That's where the money is. We'll see how this goes. What's my prediction? Collapse, revolution, and civil war. Don't think so? Let's see where it goes. Until the meantime, I guess you're going to vote, pay your taxes and be a good voter, and that'll change the system. All right, good luck with that. I'm not into paying my tax anymore, and I don't believe in voting anymore. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong and you're right. Until then, David Baumblatt from Terrabin's Leadership to the Patriots, get ready. It's going to get worse. Lead to victory.